Hello, friends. Hello, and welcome to the final chapters of Pinky and Meggy Starstruck. I want to thank you for joining me for this entire audiobook, whether you've been listening on YouTube or on any of our many podcast providers. If you're new here, the playlist for the entire audiobook is on YouTube and on Spotify. And if you're paying any attention to the thumbnail, since this is the final chapter and I'm getting ready to release the audiobook the ebook this week as well, then we've got the actual cover art that I designed for the ebook and the book that's out there. So again, all my ebooks are free to read. Google Books, Apple Books, Barnes & Nobles, wherever you can find ebooks, you will find all of my books. I've published, this will be my 16th book that I've published, and many more to follow, as we've got quite a schedule of books to release this year of 2026. But no matter where you find this timeless story, let us continue now with the final chapters of Pinky and Meggy Starstruck. Chapter 26. A little bit of what you fancy. Harry had decided to forget about his dilemma for now and focus on the dinner with Pinky. But 10 minutes before her arrival at his cottage, his phone rang. Pinky's name came over the caller ID, and Harry wondered what was up. "It's me," Pinky said, sneezing several times and blowing her nose into a lace handkerchief. "I'm not going to make it tonight," she said, coughing, sneezing again. "Meggy's running me a hot bath right now," she sighed as she pictured the dinner with Harry going up in smoke. Are you disappointed?" she asked, covering the receiver to cough again. Harry wasn't sure if he was or not. He'd been looking forward to their date. He'd conjured a dinner of magic proportions so as to enchant Pinky with a love match spell, sure that she'd have eyes only for him. Now, why was Harry unsure of Pinky's devotion when it was he himself who'd already betrayed their confidence together? He sideswiped that thought away and focused on the call. However, the Tangerine Aura quartz point that the Tangerine Aura fairy had secretly placed in his pocket throbbed with desire and a welcoming warmth, trying to call him back to her. What should he do? We ask you, friend, what would you do in this situation? Would you, or maybe should you, offer to come over to the Elven girls' cottage and cook a healing dinner for Pinky and Meggy, knowing that the girls might need some special care right now? Would you rather stay home alone, forgetting all about that Pinky Elven and her cold? Maybe that cold wasn't even real. Maybe she made it up to get out of their dinner date. Should you give in to your own desires and answer the call of the Tangerine Aura Fairy? Or, if you have enough stamina, maybe you do all of the above. And if that's you, well then more power to you. You've got an incredible drive. What would Harry do, you wonder, as Pinky waited for his response? Well, we told you that he was insatiable, and so he decided to rev up his energy to new heights. He liked experimenting with various ways to increase his energetic powers, and so he decided to sip from all the cups, revving himself up with dragon fire, a cigar from his humidor, a shot of high-potency ginseng from a magical Chinese medicine doctor's stash, and drawing in the Tangerine Aura quartz vibes to quench his desires. We didn't say he was without flaws. Harry Winterbottom was a human being, a bringer of the light in the human world. He didn't always make the right choices, as his karma bank reflected, but somehow he always made amends for his discretions, and the wheel of karma always turned in his favor. Harry Winterbottom would go to the Elven girls' cottage and make them a whirlwind magical healing meal to help his love heal. He'd take that hike back out to the out-and-back path, slipping through the hedgerows and into the Tangerine Aura Fairy's arms. And then, as the midnight hour, the witching hour approached, he'd say his goodbyes to her tangerine dreams and leave the forest, traversing back home again to work on a secret project that had him up until the daybreak hours, making magic that he cannot share with us right now, since it's of a most powerful and undetermined nature. Yes, that Harry Winterbottom would have a little sip of everything he fancied this night. Chapter 27, Randy and Lila. The carnival music spun and droned out a dirge of cacophony that sent Randy spinning. He'd done several shows the night before, and his fires were both quenched and drained at the same time. When he made too much magical fire, he felt elated at the time, but a little drained the next day. He was trying to rest, but Xavier, the carnival music man, had stirred up the band, and they'd been playing all morning long using their dirges, tilt-a-whirls, and hoo-haws to divert travelers off their intended routes and into the carnival grounds. It was time for the carnival to move on soon, but they needed to make a tidy little stash of cash before they chose their next destination. And so all the carnival members were doing everything they could to stir up business, excite crowds, and get extra tips. Randy had made double what he normally made each night, first by performing a second show, and then using his matchstick fire-making abilities to help people with their health. His fire techniques could help burn away troubles and heat up people's emotions, burning through any dross to make them feel better. After several rounds of people through his tent and private sessions, Randy had a healthy nest egg of cash and gifts. He thought about Lila for a moment and wondered what she was doing. Lila had also been burning the candle at both ends, so to speak. She, however, wasn't tired. She felt more energized than ever before, what with the new healthy regimen she'd made for herself. She got up each day and took a healing tincture, did her strength workouts, watched her diet, careful not to eat anything that might bother her, and did her mindfulness practice diligently. It was showing in her attitude and gratitude, as Lila felt that each day she had something else to be thankful for. Lila saw Randy emerge from his tent and shake his hand at Xavier. I can't sleep, he yelled over to Xavier. Move somewhere else for heaven's sake. Xavier looked at Randy and then, just to be nice, asked the band to move their instruments closer to the gates of the carnival grounds. It didn't really matter where they played, since the intention was the same regardless. Get people in the door. The energy and sounds just made the music notes, but the intentions drew the crowds in. Now, it just so happened that Meggy was passing by the carnival grounds that morning on her way to Popover for some treats. She hadn't planned on going that way, but something, or maybe someone, was drawing her in that direction. She wasn't sure, but since it was a nice day out and the forecast called for sunshine and blue skies, she decided to take the extra long way around to the bakery. It ran right through the forest, and the path led both to the carnival grounds and up into town, bringing one just out at the entrance to the bakery and then several shops down to Relic's bookshop. Meggy was singing a little tune and focused in on getting to Popover. She heard the Xavier band's music and was just about to divert herself down the trail that would lead to the carnival grounds when she heard something in her mind. I only have eyes for you, Meggy Alvin. I'm going to prove you wrong. We can be together, you and I. And then it faded, only to restart again a moment later. That Count Mashar had set up some sort of trance spell on her, Meggy thought, trying to swish the earworm away. It kept pinging its love words, as well as filling the air with an intoxicating scent. Just one night with me, and you'll be all mine, it pinged her again. Just one night, and I'll show you something divine. My heart is yours, and we'll dance the sky together, it pinged and sang into her mind. He'd made her a love song, Meggy thought to herself. However, she wasn't sure that these overt measures were enough to get her to trust him. Meet me at the end of this path, it asked into her mind. I'll show you my true self, it ended. If you don't like what you see, then you never need hear from me again. He pushed the song of love more into her mind. He was close by. Meggy could feel Mashar so near her. Should she trust him, she wondered? Should she take a gamble on this love match, knowing it was a dalliance with the dark side of the bringers of the light? Meggy's head told her to run in the other direction away from this madness, but her heart asked her if she was lonely. She was. But was Mashar, a dark matter's high-frequency agent who she wanted in her life and in her heart? Would she want him in the cottage all the time? Would she want him late at night in her arms with his charms that definitely made her blood and her lust boil at the same time? She held an anger towards him that she didn't quite understand. She wanted to explore the lustful side of herself, but she wasn't sure if she should give in to him. and so she did something she normally would not have when another magical being had so inconsiderately broken through her boundaries. She pinged him back. Maybe I will, and maybe I won't. Meet me later at the witching hour. We will settle this matter once and for all. And with that, Meggy placed her feet on the path leading to the carnival grounds, certain that Lila the Lucky could find someone there to help her heal both her heart and her mind about anything that was causing this situation to fester. Why was she feeling so much dissonance around Mashar and his advances? She had to find out. Chapter 28. It only hurts for a little while. Meggy arrived at the carnival entrance and slipped in past the Xavier band. She walked towards Lila's cabin, but then she heard a low growl come up behind her. Trevor the ocelot was eyeing her slowly. He had a scent for wickedness, and Count Mashar's spell, still in Meggy's aura, had piqued the interests of Trevor. He sniffed around Meggy's feet, and certain the dastardly smell wasn't coming from her, ran off in the direction of Count Mashar. Now, what Trevor would do when he found Mashar, we're not certain, but that will have to wait for now. Meggy found Lila's cabin and knocked gently. She hadn't told her friend that she was coming, and so she hoped Lila was available. Lila was stuck in an awkward tree pose position, and she hopped off her mat to answer the knock. The girls embraced, and Lila and Meggy sat down. Lila had Meggy sit down for a shoulder massage. You look tense, Lila said, using her healing hands to squish the tension away from Meggy's shoulders. It's Mashar again, Meggy said, allowing herself to be pampered by her friend. He's trying to woo me, but I'm not sure I want that, Meggy said. What's wrong with me? I mean, who wouldn't want a rich bachelor warlock trying to beguile them? I wouldn't, Lila said, wondering why she said that. Then she realized that she liked the younger types, who had their heart on their sleeve, someone who was a sensitive and caring soul, rather than a power broker like Mashar. Plus, doesn't he dally with dark forces, she said, shivering a little. It's true, Meggy said. We saw all this in our reading, but I can't stop thinking about him. I wanted to rebuff his advances, but I'm not so sure that's the right idea either. Oh, I don't know, Meggy said, tensing again. At that, a knock sounded at the cabin door, and Lila stopped the shoulder massage to answer the door. Randy stood there looking sheepishly at Lila, and Lila cleared her throat and stammered a little at the sight of him. Want to come in? Lila said. Meggy's here, and she's got a dilemma. Maybe you can help us. Randy looked thoughtfully at Meggy and waved hello. I'd love to, he said, but have you seen Trevor? He's run off again, Randy said, looking around. He hadn't asked the ocelot to check in on Lila, so he wondered where he'd gotten off to. I saw him, Meggy said. When I got here, he sniffed my ankles and then ran off. Randy looked at Meggy. He sniffed the air slightly, and then he knelt down to look at Meggy's shoe bottoms. That was rather an odd approach, Meggy thought to herself, but everyone's magic worked a little differently, so she didn't think anything more about it. He's caught whiff of something dark, Randy said, standing. I'll have to track him, he said, pulling his felt coat tighter around him. A thick fog had started rolling in around the campgrounds. He likes to play with dark things, Randy said, a little worry creeping in. Last time this happened, he cornered a harpy in the moors and had that poor being there for who knows how long. He just wants to play with the dark beings, Randy said. I haven't quite figured out why. I guess it's just a part of him, Randy said, looking at Lila. I mean, everyone's got a little darkness inside, right? Lila wasn't sure what to make of this, so she just decided to let it go. Is there anything I can do to help? She asked, rolling up her yoga mat and grabbing her wool cloak. I can come too if you want, Meggy said, forgetting about her own problems to volunteer her services as a bringer of the light. Sure, the more the merrier, Randy said, as the trio emerged from the cabin, ready to help out a friend in need. Little did they know that Trevor had indeed found Count Mashar at the edge of the tree line. Mashar held a binding spell over Trevor, who coughed and spat at the dark warlock. Heck, he'd only wanted to play a game with him, but Mashar was not to be trifled with, and no forest creature was going to stop him from materializing his plans. And right now, that Meggy Elvin was the only thing he wanted more than he could ponder. Why was the alliance so important to him, he wondered. But neither Mashar or Meggy could understand the reason why higher beings were pulling the two closer and closer together each moment. Chapter 29. Dark Meets Light. Mashar held the spell over Trevor, but at the moment when he could have crushed the poor ocelot, the trio of bringers of the light broke through the tree line. Trevor coughed, and Mashar had that dark light coming from his eyes. "No," Meggy screamed at Mashar. "You see, this is why I've taken so long to answer your call." She was mad, but decided that the correct emotion in this situation was compassion. Compassion for Mashar, who just couldn't pull himself from the dark side. He tried, she guessed, but I guess trying was not enough for her. "Let him go," she eased over to Mashar and put her hand on his arm. Just let him go." Both Lila and Randy were dumbstruck. Poor little Trevor wouldn't hurt anyone. Why would someone treat him so unkindly? Mashar realized, just as he'd seen Meggy emerge from the trees, that he'd screwed up massively. He'd wanted someone in this case so badly, but he'd let his emotions take over again. His anger and rage that built up inside him whenever he did the bidding of Dark Matter's HQ was just overwhelming his aura. He almost couldn't help himself. Or could he? Meggy let loose of Mashar's arm, and slowly he loosened the grip on his wand. Trevor fell to the ground and lay there, breathing heavily. He didn't know. He'd only wanted to play. Randy swooped in and scooped Trevor up in his arms, cooing to the little ocelot and scolding at the same time. "I told you not to leave the camp. What were you thinking?" he said, looking over Trevor for any injuries. Lila stood looking at Mashar and Meggy standing together. Dark Matters meets Bringers of the Light. Could the light win over the dark? Could Meggy help Mashar to denounce Dark Matters and come over to the light? Would Meggy even want to try to help Mashar? Could love really win? Was this even love between them? Slowly, Meggy stepped back and looked deep into Mashar's eyes. It was like he couldn't move from her gaze. He wanted a moment like this between them for so long now, and here they were. Neither spoke for what seemed like forever. Mashar leaned towards Meggy, thinking it was the moment to break the silence with a kiss, but Meggy held up her hand, stopping him from moving closer. "I won't bed with you or even talk to you unless you decide to clean up your energy. I've thought about this a lot ever since my reading with Lila," Meggy said with complete confidence. "I'm a bringer of the light before anything else, and I will never give up the light to be with anyone," she said with a defiant stare. "I want to help you, but I'm not sure you even want to help yourself." Mashar wasn't sure what to make of this entire interaction, and he cleared his throat, waiting for the appropriate response. If anyone else had spoken to him like this, he would have used his obliterama spell on them, casting them into a dark abyss. This was Meggy Alvin. He wouldn't send her away, even if Code 156A in the Dark Matters Handbook had told him to vanquish any agent of the light if the agent rose up against them. This was Meggy, and he simply had no response to her words. And so to set things right and to end this intolerable scene, he waved his wand 3 times and simply disappeared from the forest. No goodbyes, no, maybe I'll try to be better, just more running away. Meggy didn't care anymore. The best she could do was pray for Mashar's deliverance from the dark and get on with her life. And so she pledged to do just that. Taking Lila's hand and looking at Trevor and Randy, she wanted nothing more in that moment than the sweet love of her friends and the knowing that she, Meggy Elvin, had stayed true to her heart. The end. Or is it? So, this is the first of our Bringers of the Light Oakwood series with Pinky and Meggy. And I don't know, I guess we'll see if we want to bring in a book 2 to see what's going to happen. What's Mashar going to do? I'd like to think that those of you out there that imbibe these stories and soak them in and have a little bit of a, fan base going on, that you too might want to see exactly what Pinky and Meggy would be up to next. So if you so desire, let me know. Even if you just send me a high five and I want more of that through some sort of energetic connection to my heart. We will know and we will decide. And actually, as I pull out, I don't think I need to pull out my schedule for this group, but what am I working on next here? Pinky and Meggy. I think for Beltane, we're going to be releasing, Beltane 2026, we're going to be releasing, I've got 1 or 2 options, either Flying Potion or, I think it's going to be Flying Potion is what's going to be released next. So we're going to get started on the audiobook for that. And I want to thank you all so much for joining me here. We will see you all again soon. Take care.
Boop.